Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a Cloudy Sheep and we are playing Fate of the World. Now, a couple of very interesting things happened in between, not in between episodes, but in between turns, so it's now 2045, and if you remember well, there was an interesting bit of news presented at the last, at the end of the last episode on this. So, stratospheric aerosol breakthrough. We are now into the geoengineering research. So, if we have a look over, is it projects? Over here. We can for 50 megabucks deploy sulfate aerosols, which means that the global warming is going to go down a little bit. The agricultural performance over here in this region is going to go down by 9%, and globally it's going to go down by 1%. So, and further onwards, if there's a high disparity in between what the emissions basically should be, or sorry, what the weather should be, given the temperature and the actual temperature, that would be bad. So what we can effectively do, if you have a look at the global data overview over here, we can deploy items to reduce this forcing, and that would decrease the temperatures. As you can see, we are now at 1.7 degrees change over pre-industrial levels, which is pretty much a bad tendency from 2020. As you can see, we would still probably lose the game on this grounds if we aren't doing that on the ground of oil collapse. Now, there's a nice thing in that oil production is on the rise again. We can actually probably have a look on the oil production. This is it. So as you can see, it's going up in some steps. I think I'd see the Middle East a little bit more prominently here. Oh well. Anyway, the oil production is going up, and that is extremely good for us because, yeah, otherwise our economy would collapse and that would not be good. Speaking of the economy, our funding really seems to be going... be squeezed in a little bit, I have to say. That's because we are not that popular in many places and we can't tax them very heavily. So we'll have to see a bit whether we can drop out of some of the most expensive stuff over here, maybe. Let's anyway start with North America and the First World to see that they are still happy, very stable and all of that, and whether we can do anything about that. You've researched fourth generation nuclear, which I very much appreciate. That will decrease our uranium usage, and that means we can use much better technology in that regard, and maybe try to place that. Our initiatives for lower or higher energy efficiency in both the industrial sector and the private sector seem to be going on pretty well. So that I like to see. The technology here is going on fairly well. So we just want to keep these technology research going. Let's briefly have a look at super tensile materials, probably in 2 rounds, so 10 years. I don't know why it displays that so weirdly. And quantum computing also happening fairly well. Your emissions, I think, are going down in North America over here, just gradually after deploying so many rounds of playing this, but it looks fairly well actually. So I think this is all right, and I think actually this is probably transport. Come on, tooltip. Why did you not show me? This is forestry. This is transport. Yeah, transport is looking fairly okay, I think. So transport is 22% still, but of a much lower base. So I think all in all, we might actually cancel the transportation efficiency program over here if there is something better that we would like to do, maybe. Coal-free industry, of course, very nice. Fourth generation nuclear conversion incentives are also extremely good, especially if we are increasing the mined uranium efficiency. And I think North America is one of the places that actually has access to the most uranium. Let's briefly check that to make sure that's true. So there's 1.4 million conventional uranium in the world and very little unconventional one, but how much of that is in over here? Yeah, 300,000, so about a quarter. So I think that would be nice, and you are actually using a lot of nuclear technology, so I think it makes sense to accelerate the switch to that a little bit over here in North America. Europe, yeah, you also researched that, so that's very nice to see. Also CCS researched. Eco campaign is going on well, although you're still materialist, but you're at a higher chance of drought. Water is going down a little bit, peace reigns, but all in all you seem to be fine. Now I think likewise over here probably the road efficiency has come to a point where we don't necessarily want to push that anymore. It's come down by about 50%. We are now at 1 megatons of CO2 released to that, so I think it's okay to maybe switch that off for now and look at good things over here. I think there are a lot of the energy production in Europe is actually based on uranium. Yes, about 19 percentage points, which I think is mostly France in real life. So that does mean it makes sense to also over here maybe switch to 4th gen nuclear incentives. Who's actually using that technology, that power? The industry is... You are using fairly high levels of coal. Might make sense if we were to try and stop that, reduce that at least a little bit. Also, have you signed actually the... Yeah, you have signed, you ratified the treaty. Not much we need to do in this regard. I think I want to keep the eco-awareness campaign running. So that would be good. We don't really need to acquire 2nd generation biofuels. 2nd generation is still not enough. We could acquire aerosol geoengineering, but it's not necessarily required right now. So I don't think that's really necessary. So I think what we do want to do maybe over here is decline the coal power usage, and thereby switch over to maybe nuclear a little bit more, and that's going to be alright. Japan. Monsoons, so more drought. Your tech is booming, you're replacing one nuclear source with the other, so that is very nice. So yeah, we should really get adoption to... What was that? Drought, right? So let's get over here. We could try to defend against that, but I think what we would do over here is actually deploy the aerosols so that we can reduce the increase in temperature a little bit. That will also help a little bit at preventing more increases. I also just briefly want to check. Oh, there's a lot of refugees in Oceania, so can I actually have a look at how many that's... No, it's just a percentage point. Okay. So we need to briefly check where these climate refugees are washing up. No one in Europe, so just 0.1%. This is the number that I'm looking at. Nothing over here, nothing over here, nothing over here. Yeah, it seems like they are somewhat converging to Oceania. Come on. Yeah, so Oceania really has a little bit of an issue with climate refugees, which to me means we should probably pick the integration program over here. It does mean that the integration migration rate is going to increase, and the nationalism is probably going to decrease a little bit, but some welfare programs might be a little bit more expensive. But I think it's just something that we do need to do. Your unemployment is alright, your sickness is alright, you're not really emitting anything, so that's fine. We should take care of your droughts though. Yes, that's what we realized. Drilling and all of that has been researched. So yeah, let's try to defend you against droughts. We could do so on an ongoing basis, which I think would be fine. Do you want to do anything in terms of social development, job sharing initiative, eco-awareness? How do you look in terms of aerosols? 26 years. We might want to acquire that in another place than Japan and deploy it, just so that we are decreasing the pressure on the temperature. Right, over here, let's continue to defend you against droughts, integration program and biotech research. I think these are very fine things. High yield crops, so genetically engineered crops, will come online at some point, so that's nice to see. Right, let's take care of China, the most important polluter as always. CCS has been researched, your technology is on the rise. We do need to take care of droughts, low emissions in industry, and we are seeing that nuclear fission is expanding, so that's very, very lovely to see. And you can actually see that this is grayed out down here, so that means that we've made a huge leap of something very, very important. And if we have a look over here, you can see that the coal usage in China of the energy has decreased significantly. On the other hand, you can see that the gas usage, and that has been mainly picked up by oil, and oil is obviously one of the very scarce resource. But on the other hand, you can also see that uranium is increasing over here, and that of course is due to the policy that we are committing to nuclear. So between these two, basically coal has been replaced as a source for power, although the industry is still using it. So I think it's important that we keep on regulating the industry to use a little bit less of that. China has signed the forest treaty, but do you have any? No, I don't think you have any refugees over here. So what we want to do over here, I mean, coal-free industry at this point might be very nice, but most importantly I think is to acquire the fourth generation nuclear. When are you acquiring that? In 1.4 years. So we don't need to technically acquire it, it's gonna just come up over here anyway next turn. So I think that is very, very lovely. So we don't need to really do a lot with that. We could reduce the emissions from households, and that might be nice. Eco-awareness I think is not required. We can't do higher education over here, so you seem to be fairly well developed, and I think that is good. Could improve our defenses over here. Could do some wildlife conservation, but it's actually not that important for me. I'd rather like humanity to go through all of this unscathed. So it's not exactly a priority, although I think yeah, at some point we'll need to deal with that as well. You know what, let's try to improve our coastal defenses over here in China a little bit, and let's take care of the soil a little bit more, I think, and that's alright. We are still committing to nuclear, which I appreciate is a very touchy subject, but I think for now it makes sense. India, welcome to the red. So yeah, everything is bad. Water table. Oh, this is really bad actually. Minus 20% agricultural performance. Air pollution, India Tech advancing at a crawl. Job sharing makes progress, so that's nice to see. Nationalism is on the rise though. You're unstable. You're really, really sick. 27%. I think that's mostly due to the toxicity, as it's called. Oh, water stress 50%. Toxicity really from the fuel use in the industry, and that I think is mostly really the coal. Does it show where that is going? I don't think it does. But yeah, the coal really is an issue, so it's good that we are declining that. Can we actually see a change already? Yeah, it's declining a little bit, but at the expense of increasing oil usage. So it's not exactly super useful, but it's a thing. You're still materialist. I think we really should try to get the eco-awareness flowing a little bit here, so that we can use some measures to really combat the water stress as well. How do we look in terms of population then? I mean, with this level of decrease in children, I think it's alright if we drop the one-child policy for a little while. And I think that should be alright. And that will allow us to do something very important, which I just forgot. What did I want to do? CCS, drilling, none of that is super important. Higher education might be. Medical welfare, of course, is... Oh, biochar. Yeah, that's one. That's the one. So less water usage, because I think probably most of the water stress does come from agricultural use. Yeah, so let's use biochar. That is going to decrease the water usage in India, and that's going to be fine. Let's make the jump over to Latin America. We don't really like us, and you're very unstable, but deforestation slows. So that's good to see. Eco campaign is working. Tech is on the rise. Some riots predicted. And you have actually successfully reduced the land protection over there, so that's fine. You're subject to storms, so let's build up your storm defenses over here. And that should be alright. I think we can get away without increasing stability, maybe. Let's not risk it. Let's provide security assistance instead of land and soil protection. But I think all in all, I think we should see that the forest deforestation has come back dramatically. So we've nearly solved that. Not quite, but nearly so. Middle East, of course, very important because of the oil production. You're winning friends, but all in all, you still need some development aid. Do you have smart grids? You don't have smart grids. I think it's time for you to get smart grids because your emissions are coming up, and we need to deal a little bit with that. Job sharing initiative, I don't like to see that because that means you have a lot of unemployment. It's actually alright. Human Development Index is okay too. So maybe higher education I think is a good thing in general. Carbon emissions. Where do your emissions come from? So if we look at your emissions, it's mainly energy use, and energy is mainly used for commerce and residential. So yeah, maybe next turn. Maybe next turn we'll switch. Although we have some money left. Oh well, let's see what Russia needs and decide on that basis. Advanced drilling research, that's excellent to see. Grassland management finishing, that's good. You're reducing energy consumption. You have ratified the treaty. That is always very good news. And your drilling advances fossil fuel production, so that again is very nice. You're not terribly emitting, and you are a little bit unstable, so is there anything we can do to help you? All of this has been expanded, so I don't think there's necessarily a lot of things that we could do for you. You're displeased. I mean, what's your HDMI like? HDI. It's not that bad actually. Slowly increasing. Your population is getting older, but still somewhat stable. Maybe more so than in real life. Medical welfare. Yeah, you have some sick people, but all in all I think you're doing surprisingly fine. When would you get smart grids? 15 years. I don't think it's that important to switch you over to that. So let's maybe just give you industrial carbon recs and that's going to be alright. Right, let's deal with South Asia. Your emissions are increasing I think, but the anti-drought effort is going on well. Eco campaign works. Stem stop soil trouble? Then why is this so bad? Peace reigns, multiple wildfires and droughts, so I think we need to improve our defenses over here. That should be alright. Northern Africa, unstable, but not very unstable anymore. You don't like that we are supporting your forests. Nationalism is on the rise. But all in all, you know what? I think that's the first time that we're not seeing things as particularly negative. I mean, there's no negative external event. How's your job? Unemployment is alright. Water stress is somewhat okay. You've ratified the treaty. Smart grids we don't need. I mean, your economy really hasn't developed enough, which is why we need the educational enrollment. But other than that, I think it's fine. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy how it is down here. So that probably means we can actually do an eco campaign. So yeah, eco awareness campaign, maybe get you over a little bit from the materialist outlook. Southern Africa, you're now very unstable, so that's not good. Droughts, grassland management is alright. Healthcare program, flooding, and you've ratified the treaty. So I think we can actually stop this for now and do something about the droughts and just improve the defenses over here. Do we really need the medical treatment? No, I think it's alright. We can drop this and provide you with a little bit of security assistance. Because indeed you are very unstable. And that now leaves us with a little bit of money, so that is actually very great. And I think, so let's briefly have a look at the outlooks of people. So you're anywhere between consumerist and materialist. I think consumerist is a little bit worse. I'm not actually sure on the scale, but I think we've been working on pushing. Yeah, no. It seems to be alright. Good. So China, we didn't need to do anything specific over here. We are actually spending a lot of expensive items over here. So that's alright. Fourth generation conversion, that's also good. I think in the Middle East we did acquire smart grids. Yeah, that's nice. Oceania, you're adapting, you're integrating, that's all alright. Middle East then, you're stable, materialist, defensive. Now I think I would like to get one more card into here, maybe, potentially. Okay, so let's get... How long will it take for you to get a result? 15 years. So let's buy a new card over here. And let's acquire aerosol engineering. So we'll be pumping more into the air. Or do we? It's $50. You know what? Let's actually improve the defenses against storms and floods in North America. Then down in Oceania, we will acquire a new slot and acquire aerosol engineering. And the reason why I want to do this down here, not in North America, is that it's going to impact that there's less farming in Australia, basically, that this is going to impact. So that's very lovely. We do have very little money left. I don't think it makes sense to try to squeeze out the last bit of money. So yeah, let's take the leap up to the next episode and into the year 2050, and then it'll actually be 30 years from when we took power, and at that point I think it will make sense next time to look at that. Next time to have a look at how we are progressing. So briefly over here, world population has grown yet more, but you did see these temperatures, all these projected temperatures coming down very dramatically. It has still, the current temperature still has increased, but due to our geoengineering effects, this is coming down very dramatically, and that would actually mean that if this is stable, things would be alright. Now of course things are not going to be stable, but at some point, or at least it buys us time to deal with things a little bit better. still no one who's likely to kick me out. Japan is actually increasing a little bit. Middle East does seem to love us a lot, as does Southeast Asia, so that's lovely to see. I think that's all the news. Yep. So yeah, that's very fantastic. And I think before I go into this episode, I will take a break here, and then before I start the next episode, I will try to have a look at the world, try to make notes of a couple of things, and then talk about where we stand just one generation into this very nice little project. Thank you very much for watching. See you again next time. Bye bye.